Northwest Regional Telehealth Resource Center. And I want to welcome you to our June webinar. We'll kind of get into this a little bit slowly so we can have an opportunity for more people to join us. But those who are here, thanks for coming. And let me tell you about our next webinar that's coming up next July 31st, and that is What's a Website? And it's presented by Josh Reynolds, who's the owner of the company that developed our new website, and we'll think he's got a good message for you. I'd also like to remind you to save the date for our 2015 conference. It'll be held in Seattle next year, March 30th to April 1st. And it's probably very appropriate for me that April Fool's Day is the day that we're ending our conference. I'd like to go around the room a little bit to tell you some different features that you can use during the webinar today. The first is our files pod over here, and you can download our save the date postcard for our webinar or for our upcoming conference, and you can also download our slides from our presentation today. The links pod down in the bottom right corner has a link to our SurveyMonkey evaluation survey, and we want to encourage you to take that. And in fact, we're so serious about you taking that Martha will actually put the survey up on your screen as we're closing out today's presentation. And we also have a link to our new beautiful website. If you have questions about the technical aspects of what's going on today, if you're having problems seeing something, or if you need to know a little bit more about what's the procedural aspect of things, you can go in the chat pod down here on the bottom row and ask us questions, and the staff will monitor that and provide answers for you. If you have questions for our presenters, there's a Q&A pod, question and answer pod, and they will be monitoring that pod during the presentation, and as questions come up, they will respond to them. And I'll tell you about they in just a second when I do the introductions. But then also over here we have some technical notes that just tell you about procedures and what the different parts of our screen are for. Okay, I'd like to introduce now our presenters for today. And I want to tell you, first of all, that we met Dennis Holton last October. He facilitated a training for our board of directors, and we were all very impressed and very happy with the information he gave us. But one of the key things that Dennis came up with during the discussion was how his social media was working and growing for him. So we thought that would be an ideal presentation for today. And that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm thinking about how I'm going to apologize for my voice. It's allergies are big time this kind of year. Anyway, let me talk to you about our presenters today. Dennis Holton is the president and CEO of the Cavalry Inc. in Jackson, Wyoming. He's an adaptable, resourceful, and enthusiastic manager, leader, business owner, and team member. Dennis has extensive experience with a wide level of responsibility in helping business clients. He's a strong communicator with excellent interpersonal skills and knowledge, including but not limited to facilitation, training, follow-up, and measurements. He contributes extensively to teamwork and always displays a willing and helpful manner when he's resolving, analyzing, and investigating various challenges, issues, problems, barriers, and needs. And then in the background today, who is Valerie Meinen. Val will be monitoring the Q&A pod. As you have questions, she'll bring them up to Dennis and kind of determine the best time to answer them. Val received her Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics from Stony Brook University in New York. She's been working with organizations across the country since 1993. Her focus has been with the travel, hospitality, and customer service industry for more than 20 years, and that's where we met Val last year, was in the hospitality industry. Her core competencies are enhancing and measurably growing the customer experience. Ms. Meinen has also teamed up with Mr. Holton to lead the Cavalry's growth division, taking her skill set far beyond just the hospitality industry. And with that, I'd like to say, Dennis, thank you for coming, and take it away.
Thank you very much, Bob, and hello to everyone who is on the webinar today. We are here to talk about social media, but before we get started, Bob related this earlier in his comments. I want to give everyone an indication of a year ago, February, I had 3 local clients who had asked me to please establish a Facebook business page. My first reaction was to laugh out loud, and I said, I'm not still in high school. Well, I did one smart thing. I called Facebook directly and spoke with a young lady who they put me in contact with who had been with Facebook for a grand total of 1 week. She explained to me how best to establish the site, how to promote the site, and what could happen. And her forward-looking agenda said, and this was February of 2013, by August of 2013, we should be up to about 100 views per day. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a key point. You'll hear a lot about likes in Facebook, but likes can be manipulated by Facebook itself. Views cannot. Views indicate how many people have actually been to the site to look at it. So again, looking at February of 2013, by August, we were to be about 100 views per day. In fact, by August of last year, we were at 1,500 to 2,000 views per day, and today we average 1,950 to 2,600 views per day. So it has proven itself time and again to be an invaluable tool to get information out. Also, other than my own personal time or the input time I have from our people, there is no cost. So putting that new, what we call business tip of the day out there has turned out to be one of the best investments in my time that we've ever made. So I encourage each and every one of you as we go through social media today to understand its relevance and understand its importance to what you're trying to communicate to others. And obviously you're going to meet a lot of people whom you have never met before. And so looking at the first slide that says social media in the center, you can see all of the comments that are made about it, from sharing to blogs to different to months of the year to the means of communicating information to the fact that you have a global audience to the fact that it is economically inexpensive to do. Anyone, anywhere can take a look at it. And again, ladies and gentlemen, it has turned out to be just an incredible way to do business. So with that in mind, why, you might ask yourself, would you be involved or have an interest in social media? Well, there's a number of things. For one thing, when you look at marketing, and we spend a lot of time with our clients talking about the fact that marketing is much more than the traditional definition. It is, in fact, marketing, advertising, sales, and promotion that can all make an impact on marketing. And what social media can do as an integral component to it is that it can help with your brand, it can help with accountability, it can make connection with you and your organization easy and continuous. There is a richness to social media, and it can also help to segment what you do from what others are doing. So as you look at the wheel in the center and you see impact on marketing, as you look at the band around that, from brand to accountable to the connection to the reward and the rigor of actually getting that information out and being able to segment your client base, your supplier base, or other. Social media, in our experience and with our clients' experience, has no equal. The fact of the matter is more and more people are doing this. Now recently, and I think everyone will find this interesting if they haven't already heard about it, recently in a seminar where we were talking about social media, one of the gentlemen said, but isn't it true that Facebook has an older audience today? Well, the fact of the matter is those people who are involved in the older audience, and this is established fact, are more business oriented, they are more service oriented, supplier oriented, and rather than having the entire base of social media as Facebook, say, well, we're talking to 14 or younger to 21-year-old young people, we're now reaching people 21 to 70. And many, many of those people are actively involved in the business world. So, you see Facebook, and you see it everywhere. The comment is, it reaches everyone. And literally, day by day, in talking with our clientele, in talking with our clientele's team members, in talking with our clientele's customers and suppliers, more and more people will quote what they've seen on Facebook, the comments that have been made on Facebook, and the ever-increasing tangible value of what is being communicated. So it no longer is a waste of time. It's no longer two teenagers speaking with one another. The fact of the matter is, it is a profitable, successful, tangible way to get your message out to other people. And it includes things like LinkedIn. And many people say to me, well, I didn't know LinkedIn was considered social media. Well, in fact, it is. And I have a funny story to tell you. I have a good friend of mine who is in the hospital research business here in Jackson. And she has a somewhat unusual name. And one day on LinkedIn, she heard from a lady who was in Vancouver who has exactly the same name, including the same middle name. And they started talking. Well, this other lady is also a medical researcher. So they started comparing notes, and now the lady from Vancouver is flying to Jackson so they can talk business. The fact of the matter is, and for anyone here who's listening who has had any experience with LinkedIn, there are great articles, including our own business tip of the day, but there's also great discussions. And running into people that perhaps you haven't seen or heard from in years who are suddenly a part of your circle, and being able to move forward, offering new ideas, learning from you, etc. And when you put it all together in the bandwagon, from Twitter to Facebook to Flickr to YouTube to you name it, it is growing literally. And when I say it, I'm talking about social media. And the people who are using it, who are reading it, who are studying it, and who are learning from it. And the more I talk about our success to past, present, and future clientele and their people, their suppliers, their customers, they say, quote, how do I do this right, Dennis? We know that it's working for you. How do we use it? And that is a key element that we're here to talk about today. If you're interested in reaching clients and prospects, if you're interested in knowing that they have an interest in what you are posting on social media, you have to let them know. You're going to have enough people who are going to find you through the process of their studying social media. But if you have targeted accounts, we have found again and again the value of including it in our contact information. So we have our phone number, we have our email address, we have our website, but we also include our social media contact so that they can in fact reach us. And I have had literally thousands of people, not hundreds or tens, thousands of people over this year and a half who are now connected with us as a result of social media. And guess what I hear from them about their use of it? It's easy, Dennis. I can do it from a remote location. I can follow along and learn from you. And just yesterday, one of my out-of-town clients said, I never miss looking at your business tip of the day. I learn something from it each and every day. So would you please keep it up? because the danger in all of this, and Val and I just talked about this before we started the webinar today, is starting it, gaining an audience, and then quitting. The fact of the matter is, I would like to let each and every one of you know that if and when you decide to start a social media campaign, the worst thing you can do is stop it. You need to keep it going. I never in my wildest dreams thought we would be at 1,950 to 2,600 views per day. I paid attention to what the young lady told me from Facebook saying, well, we ought to be up to about 100 by August of 2013. It has so exceeded my fondest expectations that I realize its value. And, of course, things like YouTube. There was an article today online about one of the greatest singers that has ever come out that was on a British version of American Idol. And she came out and started to sing, and 6 gold LP albums later, she is still one of the #1 views on YouTube. Her original presentation in front of Simon Cowell and some of the other judges has reached 3.5 million views. The fact of the matter is, if people hear about you, if they learn about you, if they believe that what you have to say has value, they will find you. And that finding is going to be dependent upon you continuing with the process. I also today found another posting where nothing had been done since February of this year. And you know the reaction is going to be, oh, I see, they're no longer interested, it's no longer has any value. So again, if you make the decision to go forward, you need to keep at it. Now, how do you begin? Well, first of all, recognize the fact that anyone who comes to visit, you want to thank, especially on social media sites like Twitter. You want to be able to thank them for being there for you. And so about once a month, I spend a business tip of the day thanking my listeners and readers, but I also include some of the best comments that have been made. I do not use the name of the person who sent it, nor their organization, so they have no problem in sharing with me. And the moment you prove to them that you're not going to blab their name or their organization's name, they'll even take more time to let you know, I like this post. I had a question about that post. I've got friends who want to hear more about this, and would you contact them? The same thing with emails. When a social posts a new event, you want to be able to get back to people. One of the things that I hear on a regular basis is that when someone who has read our post, checks our contact information, contacts me, I never, ever go more than 24 hours to get back to them unless I'm on an airplane someplace. I want to make sure that they know that I had an interest in them contacting me and an interest in providing them real-world answers to their question. So if it's ignored, forgotten, lost, or whatever, you will lose that ability to be able to continue to gain a newer and broader audience. Now, what do you need to do? If you're starting off in social media, you need to define your company and your product and service value proposition. Let them know right up front what it is that you do and how your products and services can help them recognize and realize true value. It's up to you to be able to define those items and communicate them. 2, how can you support your value proposition, including but not limited to testimonials and referrals? Well, as I'm sure you all know, the strongest value proposition is what your existing and past clients and customers and suppliers and others have said about you. But there's more to it than just the testimonials and referrals. We have a rather unusual part of our business, and we used to call it, before certain events happened in the United States, the hired gun business. If any of you are old enough to remember Paladin, you know that basically we were hired to be able to go and sell our clients products and services when they couldn't do it themselves. And that is a critical application, because there are always customers, always others, who despite the best price, the best value, the best products, for reasons beyond recognition and understanding, simply are not ready to purchase. So clients hire us to go do it for and with them. So typically we're in a buyer or a VP of sales or a CEO's office who is a customer of our customer. And I put on a presentation with my client's people right behind me. The reality is we always take a different tact than what my client has, and immediately their client starts talking about what was missing, what was needed, etc. And ladies and gentlemen, you may be surprised to know it is never price. I repeat, never price. What they want to do is have a better understanding and frankly a better explanation of that value proposition. How do you compare with your competition? This is something that a lot of businesses shy away from, and the reality is I spend a lot of time explaining to them that it's important. Customers need to know, and with their schedules, they don't always have the time to do their own research. So for you to be able to explain and compare with your competition, that gives them not only the sense of the differential between you and your competition, but more importantly, an inner sense that you understand the importance of providing value to your customers, and they feel really good about it. So based upon your research, knowledge, and client interviews, what message do you need to convey to solve the competitive landscape? It's not only the fact that you have better features, functions, and benefits. It isn't just your value proposition. It's an understanding that the client that you're talking to has unspoken, unmet, what we have trademarked, business pain. That is an unsolved challenge, issue, problem, barrier, or need that despite their investment in people, time, and money, they have not been able to solve it. And as you can all well imagine, and for the ladies in the group, I will say this right up front, it is more typically conveyed by men as opposed to women. The fact of the matter is, we have a book coming out from Harcourt Brace that is entitled, Drop Your Hands, Don't Push Back, and Listen Up. Because many people will go into such a meeting with a preconceived notion that their way is the only way. And isn't the definition of insanity that you keep doing the same thing hoping for a different outcome? The reality is they are there for you to be able to help them and to get them into a mindset that it is okay to listen to what you've had to say, and more importantly, it's okay for them to be pushed out of their own comfort zone because what they're doing and trying is not solving the problem. So for you to be able to offer your value proposition, for you to be able to offer the difference between you and your competition, and how to add that value to solve their problem, spoken and unspoken, is critical. Social media, ladies and gentlemen, is also a step-by-step process. If you decide today, which I hope you do, to make your decision to move ahead with social media, you need to decide which of the social media options you choose, which means you're going to study them. If you go on Google and put in social media, you will find a listing of every social media site available today. we updated our website, and Bob was just talking about the fact that you've updated yours. We have it set up now by clicking a different button where we can go on and make our one posting, the business tip of the day, and it will appear on 9 different social media sites automatically. We don't have to raise a finger to put them on the others. So once your decision is reached, review each of the social media sites to learn how to join, and each one of them is a little different. Then follow the directions provided to you, followed by creating the daily, weekly, or other time frame posts. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to add again, what we have found, not just by trial and error, but also based upon people who are reading and getting back to us, that a weekday post is the most effective. So we're there Monday to Friday. We do not post on holidays, and we do not post on the weekends. But we find that the most views easily come from those posts that are done weekday. Then follow your postings. It's critical to follow up on your postings. For example, if you choose Facebook, the most important criteria, as I mentioned, is not the likes but the views. And as the person who created the site, by going on the admin page, which you'll be brought to automatically once you sign up, you will see from the day before or the day of how many people actually came to view it. So in other words, how many people stop to view your postings, and do they continue to visit your site on a daily basis? We learn that from the email, website, phone call, and other follow-up from the people who are viewing. Your goal? Try to grow your views, and by inviting more of your friends, acquaintances, clients, and prospects over time, you will do that. Keep in mind, when you go to the admin page, oftentimes Facebook or the other social media sites will ask you if you have other friends or other people you would like to become a part. On Facebook, they need to click the fact that they like the actual site itself, and then come back on a weekday basis and like the individual posting that you make. So I've had some people that have gone on and just clicked that day's posting, and then they don't understand why they don't get an update or a reminder the next day. I have to take them through the process of going back to the site where they find a rather large clicking area where they can like the whole site, and then they'll get a reminder daily of that's what they need to do. There's also measurements, and they're critical. Each of the social media sites have definitive ways and methods to measure the results you want. As you become more familiar with the sites and what your viewers find of greater and greater interest, move ahead with other social media sites. So in other words, don't start with 20, start with 1 and have it grow to 20. You'll learn more and you will get more response that way. The bottom line is to secure viewership on as many of the social media sites and locations as possible with creative, helpful, knowledgeable, and responsive information. Now, moving ahead, in other words, going to the next level of performance, you want to be able to generate leads. And the reality is, note this marketing comparison that was just published. In terms of market research, traditional market research versus social media. First of all, if you go out and pay a market research firm to do your research, the information has a high cost. With social media, you get it for free. In terms of the execution and time for market research, it's long. With social media, it's immediate. It's right now. With samples, typically market research, and you know this from TV viewing and other things, their pool of information comes from a rather small group. With social media, it's everyone who is going on your site and viewing your postings. With the timeliness of the information, while it's immediate for market research, it's instant for social media. You get it right now. What about the data value? Well, from a market research perspective, it's transactional. In other words, how is it performing over time? But it leaves out a critical element. What about the behavioral side? What about what people really want? What are they seeking? What do they want? That's why it's so important. And follow-up, what about the longevity of it? If you're paying a market research firm, that's fine for the duration of your contract. But with social media, it's not only immediate, but it's nonstop, forever. So the bottom line is there are so many reasons to get involved in social media, it makes sense. Now, what about your timeline? I'm going to suggest, despite the fact that there may be some folks who are going, oh man, this is overwhelming, the reality is it's not, and once you start doing it, you'll find it easier and easier to move ahead. So, begin this week with your choice of social media sites. Choose Facebook. Choose Twitter, choose LinkedIn, and you may in fact already be on. Once chosen, move ahead with your story, which includes the following elements. An opening. What about the process you follow? How long has it taken? What's the timeline? You're asking your audience not to push back, to listen up. And how can they measure what you're providing to them in terms of its value to them? And finally, look for the views, not likes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time and attention. Bob?
Well, Dennis, thank you. This whole social media thing is something that baffles me, but you're getting me a lot closer anyway. If there are any questions from our audience, you're more than welcome to drop them into the question and answer pod at the bottom of the screen. I want to thank Dennis and Valerie while we're waiting to see if we have any questions for sharing their time with us and sharing this information. And I think Dennis, your growth in Facebook, especially that you've talked about on and off since I've known you, is just staggering, and I really would like to emulate that in some way.
I understand, Bob, completely. You know, there's a question about the investment of time on a daily basis, Bob, and the reality is that in the beginning, it will take longer than it does once you get into the process and you get more and more familiar with it. But there's a key element here. I usually have the Facebook postings and other postings for the other social media about a week to 10 days ahead. And unless something comes up, unless there is an event that I want to put in the meantime, I find consistently that by getting ahead of the game, it's easier and easier to make sure that I don't miss a day or have a mind meld where I can't think of what I want to talk about that day. It actually pays to make sure that you get ahead of the game.
Yeah, that's good advice, I think, for just about any enterprise. I don't see any questions coming in, so I'm going to ask Martha to go ahead and put the survey up just to get everybody's impressions and concerns about, or suggestions, I guess I would say, about what other subjects we can have. And Dennis and Valerie, thank you very much for sharing your time with us. And if anyone needs to get in touch with them, you can contact us here at NRTRC, and we'll get, we'll get some contact information out to you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bob.